Hey there, it's your host, Mara Glatzel, and you are listening to Even Here, Even Now, a podcast where we are devoted to sharing frank conversations and true stories about what it means to stay by your own side and meet your needs consistently, messily, and sustainably. Now, on to today's show. Hello, friends, and welcome back to Even Here, Even Now. I am so stoked to be here with today's guest, who I just absolutely adore and have not gotten to talk to in quite some time. So we had ourselves a little chat to get kicked off, and now we're going to dive into all the things. But Sammie, welcome to Even Here, Even Now. I would love for you to tell us a little bit about what you do, but most importantly, we are curious about why you do what you do.
Hi, Mara. Hi, everybody. I am so happy to be here. I am tuning in today or recording here today from a little beachside town in Aotearoa, New Zealand. So Mara and I are on opposite ends of the world. Mara is
In
sweaty
our
and
little
overheated.
beachside towns.
Yeah. And I am icy cold and just, needing multiple coffees to keep warm. I am a coach for space holders and creatives who are here to do deeply integrity-filled work in the world, who want to make the world a more beautiful place, who are devoted to the craft of the work, and who believe in that as a portal of expansion. And honestly, it's really, really refreshing and life-giving to be surrounded by folks like that. So my work takes a few different forms. It's predominantly online. Most of the time I'm on the internet. I also run retreats, usually one-ish a year. And that is a really beautiful touch point of, sensory delight and being with people in actual real life and eating good food, which is just so important to me. And, hearing the proper cackles of each other in real time. Um, I have a couple of children, one 5-year-old called Star and a 1.5-year-old Hannah. And so life is full and juggly and messy and blessed and chaotic. And sometimes I forget how lucky I am, even when I just name the reality of that. I think, God, the little me would be really, really stoked to hear me speak out an intro. I also am a trainer at a life coaching academy, and that really speaks to and supports my own kind of desire for elevation of the craft. So I get to nerd out with new coaches about how to do the thing and how to be with people. Yeah. And why. I feel like we would be living in a different world if everyone truly was able to be, like capital B, with each other in an exquisitely present way. Like if we were able to meet each other and walk alongside each other without shying away, without quietening ourselves, without having to dull the truth, I think we would be living in a really different world. And I think there is an incredible wave of coaches and healers and facilitators coming through. Like, as we all know, right, this industry continues to grow and grow and grow at this wildly rapid rate. And I think that is the most amazing thing, because more people like that out in the world doing beautiful work with other humans who are ready to be met in that
Mhm.
way, is the ripple effect of that is wildly exciting to me. I mean, I love to imagine kind of the golden ripple effect of one extra human being out in the world doing great, powerful, important, integral, integrity filled work, and how that impacts the literal planet, you know? Um, so the why is that, and also I think the why is a great longing for much of my life to be heard, you know, to be seen and loved and welcome exactly as I was. And so it feels medicinal for me to cultivate that environment for other
Yes.
people. Yeah. Yeah. Um, and I guess that's again where like the child in me, which feels very kind of alive in this conversation already, uh, goes, oh yeah, like that's what we needed. And often
Mhm.
it's the case, right? We create the thing that we needed or we need,
Mhm.
present tense. Yeah.
Mhm. Oh, yeah, all of that. So many cosigns. I think that, it's funny because oftentimes people will say things to me like, "Oh, well, like, you must have so many people to talk to about what you need. You must have people in your life that are so, like, on board with your needs." And you know, I started this podcast, I started this business for so much of the same. Like, someone out there on the other side of the world, do you want to talk to me about these things? Like, through the internet, through the vastness of the internet, maybe I could find a few people. Um, and it is truly incredible to get to hang with people like you, talk about things like this. So, Sammy, I'm curious for you. This is how we always start these conversations. Like, what does it look like in a very kind of real and mundane and regular way, although maybe also magical way? What does it look like for you to meet your needs on a daily basis, like on a
Mm.
regular day?
I wish I had a more magical answer, honestly, but it is pretty real and mundane right now. So I co-sleep with my littlest babe, and I've never had children who do this kind of elusive sleep through the night thing. And so, I'm still up regularly multiple times. When I say up, I mean waking up, rolling
Mhm.
over, you know,
Mm.
um, with Hannah. And so I speak to that context because there is just years and years and years and years of broken sleep. And so right now, one of my highest priorities and the things that is a need, but also something that I advocate for in myself is sleep. So that might look like Stevie, who is my husband, um, taking the kids like first thing in the morning, and I just get to sleep for a while. And the ambitious, productive, like productivity loving part of me has to kind of meet the edge of that so often, because the discomfort of I'm going to let myself rest in the form of sleep, which is, a very basic human need, can sometimes bump up against there's so much to do. And so prioritizing actually allowing myself even an hour of proper duvet up to the head. For any fellow co-sleepers, you will know the sweetness of that. um, like an hour of deep rest. I feel like I am only just now trying, is probably the true word here, trying to prioritize micro moments above
Mhm.
required needs. So like I think the um being fed, sleeping as much as possible, getting fresh air, or again, like human requirements, I feel like I've kind of got most of the time. I can, 2 out of 7 days, I can pretty easily like eat some scrappy something out of the fridge for lunch in a bid to get another thing done.
Mhm.
Um, but I think my true work right now is to carve out the 7 minutes after I finish work before I go back inside to my family to lie on the floor of my office
Mm.
and listen to a meditation or play a song that I really needed to hear or be in silence or take the long way home,
Mm.
um, to gift myself a moment in between. And I think these like sneaky, almost stolen moments feel really precious and and honestly like an edge. And that feels kind of ridiculous to say out loud because I hear myself and how simple and small that is. But I think in this season of small children and business and attempting to have some form of a life outside of those two things, the stretch is the 7 minutes.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I will also say, Mara, now that I'm looking at your face, I'm reminded of something you shared on Instagram. It must have been this week. And I replied to this story because I felt so called out or called up in the best way, which was you sharing, do we have time to look after ourselves? If I've got time to find an hour and a half to watch Love Island, maybe we do. And there was a part of me that was like, okay, okay. the
Mhm.
that has kind of cracked something inside of me in a good way. And I think there is room to tell myself a truer story about capacity or what possibly I could stretch into and how I could take care of myself
Mhm.
in a better way because I can relate to the Love Island reference.
It is so funny. My 3 weeks ago self who said to my sister, "There is no way that I'm watching a show that is on every single day and is frankly so boring. I don't even know how I'm watching it." Fast forward to me today, I'm like, "It's Wednesday. We don't no episode? We don't get an episode on Wednesday? Like,
What are you going to
we
do
want
at
a
that
day off
time?
on Wednesday? I don't need a day off. I don't want a day off," right? Um, and it is very funny to watch yourself doing things and noticing like, "Wow, okay. I I am making time for things for all kinds of reasons." And that doesn't necessarily mean like it's a swap. Like I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna move my body for that time, or I'm gonna rest that for that time, or um. But yeah, I do find it very interesting to notice like what am I up to? I'm like, oh, I don't have time, but I get that really rude reminder from my phone to tell me how much screen time I have uh, um, absorbed over the course of the week, right? Like these sorts of things that remind me, like, how the spaces I do have and intentionally using those spaces. I love Sammy thinking about because you work in your yard and I also work in my yard. I love thinking about like taking the long way home. Um,
Additional 30 seconds.
it's such a great reference. It's like, let me just, check out this grass for like a few seconds or oh. So speaking of fangirling over one another on Instagram, you put up a post now several months ago, which I loved and wanted to talk about it on this podcast because I just felt the resonance of it was so real. And you were talking about this kind of like tension between, oh, you said that this could be named the tension of an ambitious homebody, which I loved. But that tension between like a big life or an ambitious life and a soft life, and is it an either or is it a both and? And It made me remember there was a post circulating a couple of years ago that was very upsetting to all of my crew of very ambitious humans. And the post was like, I want a mediocre life, I think was the title of it. And the whole thing was basically about what your post was about, which was like, what kind of life how do I want to be living? What do I want that to look like? You know, do I always want to be striving for more? Or do I want to be happy with what I have? Um, does it like, do I have to live up to my potential in some grand way? What does that mean to me? And so these are questions that I'm always really asking as a naturally ambitious person who's also very soft. All of these memes on Instagram, they're like, born to be a baby girl, forced to be a big dog. Like I really feel it. I really feel it. But also I am a big dog. So it is a mess of contradictions. And I'm curious, it's been a few months. Where are you now in that
Oh,
both and?
yeah, I have been in the tension and the questioning for years. And I think the small but important shift that happened around about the time that I wrote that post was that I swapped out or for and. So big life or soft life for big life and soft life. And even that just softens my body, you know?
Mhm.
Um I'm a Libran and I think the both and just is a really natural place for me to operate from. But 4 years ago, I moved back home to my home country of New Zealand, and we moved from Melbourne, this vibrant, full of life city, to a beach town, which isn't super small, but you know the pace is so different. Um, and I was watching the incredible content way that people were living these soft lives. Like, the plan for the week was to do a little bit of work, go for a surf, meet a friend for a walk. And that was the absolute gold standard of how they wanted to live. And I would watch that and feel almost like miffed internally. Like, oh, I see the beauty of that. I see it. And if that was the extension of my life, I feel like I feel there's a discomfort in my belly, you know, like, but what if we also did the thing, you know? And there's almost an envy to how content people can be with this beautiful simplicity. I think probably those people have got it sorted in a lot of ways, you know? And so I guess I'm curious about the ongoing form of the and, like the really holding the ampersand as a verb. Um, you know the line, the more healed you are, the less ambitious you become. That has
Mhm.
sort of that has reverberated around in me at times. I don't know if I agree with it, honestly. I do see how that can be true because you're not filling a void, right? But it also, I think there's also this innate drive that I have always had, you know, this ability to vision and make a dream and then make a dream actually happen, which I don't want to dull that part of me. I don't want to squish that kind of glorious, ambitious, excited part of me into something that no longer exists. So when you ask the question, where am I with it now? I think the and has invited me to sink a little further into the soft life and a little further into the big life.
Mhm.
Mhm. Like, if both exist, if both can coexist, what does that look like? And it's kind of imaginary, possibly a little right now, but it is like I wrote in that post. It's letting myself have long, slow, kind of languishy Sunday mornings making pancakes and that be it. But then knowing that some big, incredibly kind of stretchy project waits for me on the Tuesday morning
Mhm.
and not sacrificing one for the other. I think if I got rid of that pancake morning, my soul would die a little. If it was all Zoom calls and solo plane flights. But if it was all pancakes and no stretching of my brain and meeting my ambition, I think my soul would also die a little there. And so, yeah, it's kind of this. I don't imagine it's ever going to feel like a perfect balance. I think that is uh, an unfair thing that we're taught to strive for. But I do think, and I'm continually curious about holding both things and letting both things become even more so. Like, how can life feel even softer? How can the softness feel even softer? How can the bigness feel even bigger?
Mhm. Yeah. You know, once upon a time, I had the thought that when I healed my kind of like capitalist, like inner toxic productivity culture, inner sort of like pressured culture, that I would find that my ambition was just who I had been raised to be. And I was very surprised to find that I am a naturally ambitious person. That actually, even having done so much of that work over so long, it's like almost the opposite is true. Now my ambitions are not what I was taught to want, but what I actually want, and they're very different than what I thought I was gonna want. They constantly surprise me, and, it is really kind of interesting to be that kind of person. You're like, "Okay." I often will describe people will be like, "Oh, it must be so easy for you." And I was like, "No." Holding myself back feels like holding back, like, a crew of teeming horses so often. I'm like, "All right, I don't wanna burn out. So we're gonna do this kind of, like, forward, back, forward, back thing." Which is so much for me like that soft versus big. It's like, okay, even today I was like, all right, it's summer and I am gonna need like some bathing suits and like a SPF shirt so I can stay at the beach all day and like a hat with a brim that doesn't crunch my curls. And like, these are the things, these are like the basics of my summer uniform. Um, and so, like, planning to have that slowness, but, like, I'm doing that shopping in the middle of like, a 10-hour day of things that I'm really excited about, right? So this sort of tether back and forth, and what I find to be very interesting, and I'm curious how this shows up for you, is, like, my own natural enthusiasm is a lot. It is a lot inside of my body. It is, like, a lot for me to be the steward of. And for so long, I wanted to, like, crunch it down because I was like, "It's way too much." It's like, you're doing too much. You wanna do too many things. You are too multi-passionate, all this stuff. And that actually it's really fun to be all of those things, but it does require some like containment, boundaries, like some like specific care so that I don't just like run myself into the ground. How do you feel about that?
Well, it's interesting to hear you speak about your own ambition because, from an objective perspective, I think what a heartbreaking reality if that wasn't true. Like, I have your book right beside me. And if your ambition was not actually alive in you, we would not have Needy in the world. We would not
Mhm.
have your work in the world. All of the people listening to this and all of the podcast episodes that you've ever recorded would not exist. And I mean, what a heartbreaking reality, right? And so I think it's so easy for me to see how important and and I guess how much it kind of amplifies the beauty of the world for people to be ambitious and to follow the call, and to be brave enough to let the nudges nudge them. Um, the overflowing enthusiasm is something I can really relate to, and placing some kind of parameters around that without, again, kind of squashing the creative life force is a dance, right? Personally, I try, apart from once a month where I have a call at night, I try to not work at night at all. I notice that just then keeps my brain alive. And when I'll wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning thinking about the thing, which is not wholly necessary. Um, but I'm married to a musician who is very much an immersive creator. And so he will go into a studio space and make and make and make and make and make for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And if we had this kind of, you got to do the Pomodoro thing or like work for 90 minutes and then have a break, I don't think what would come out of that space would be the same. And I think each of us have our own unique rhythms. And sometimes we just need to kind of succumb to the, like, oh, we are in this. Can we just let ourselves make the thing? And also, I mean, I'm thinking about last night here in New Zealand, there's a like a Māori celebration, which is called Matariki, over the course of this month. And I went to my daughter's preschool Matariki celebration, and I met up with one of my friend's mums who's just recently become a corporate coach. And before, I still had the bag of all of our things in my arms. And before I'd even entered this celebration, I met up with her, and the uh, enthusiastic force field of a conversation happened from the very first moment, because there was so much to talk about and I was so enthusiastic about what she was creating in the world. And we talked and talked and talked and talked and talked and talked and talked up until the moment the performance that the kids were doing was about to happen. And I remember thinking, like, oh my gosh, I swung into this. And the excitement was so real that I forgot that I was there for my kids. And I forgot that, like, there was, another 70 people in this space. So I guess all that to say, I relate, and also personally find it as a generator that it takes less energy to just let the flow, like to let the enthusiasm take hold and run with it until the enthusiasm no longer feels so visceral.
I'm curious about how this has shifted over the course of your life. Like, when you were in school, when you were like a teen, how was your ambition then? Like, what was your productivity like during that part of your life?
The I feel like the ambition has always been alive.
Mhm.
The longing to do some really cool shit in the world has always been alive. I also really loved to party. And so that, from sort of 14 for a decade and a half was a really significant part of my life. So that probably dampened the productivity part, because my priorities were elsewhere. But I always did enough to get through. That's sort of as far as I would, like, I would achieve as much as I had to achieve in order to get through the thing. That has changed since finding the thing that I love. Since finding this joy of my life, which is this work, that has activated a desire for excellence, honestly. Like, I
Mm,
really want to create excellent work in the world, and so I will put in way more hours than the 17-year-old version or the 27-year-old version, or the 37-year-old version would have. Now it feels natural and important, but also like, respectful, actually, of the
mhm,
work to show up. And there are times, right, where done is better than perfect, has to be
mhm,
okay, with the reality of how much time is available, but also excellent work matters to me.
mhm, mhm. Yeah.
What about you? What do you think about that? Like, what's your experience?
Mm, I was an extreme perfectionist, and I was really and an oldest daughter, and I was really, really good at doing absolutely everything and doing it perfectly. I also like to party, but I did both, which actually was, like, really a lot. Like, I was just so exhausted, I was so burnt out. I would be, like, out with my friends, very social, and then, like, doing my homework to perfection all night, like, in some sort of frenzied way. Um, and so what I see from a lot of that time is just, like, I feel like I'm gonna be recovering from the exhaustion of burning the candle from all ends for, like, much of my life. But I find it really interesting, like, we both have 2 daughters. I find it really interesting to look at now my life, like, there's something about having kids that really suits me, and I think it suits my inner child too. Like, I too need a bedtime, and I too need to eat 3 times a day, and I too need, the kind of, like, structure that, having children provides. I find that it has been really sort of, like, fruitful and fun to, uh I think what I mentioned this because I was worried, like, once I started having kids, like, what's that gonna do to my work and what's my life gonna be like? And what I found is that part of what helps my ambition is the, like, really being tethered to the ground through my kids, like, through their sort of just, like, the routine of their daily life, through having to be, um like, even even it's like the social piece, it's like going to schools for celebrations, going to do these sorts of, like, normal kind of things, like, I find all of that so joyful, and it gets me off of my computer, it gets me out into the real world, and I find it gives me a lot of balance to, I don't know, it's fun. It's so funny because, like, my kids don't know what I do, like, at all. They'll put maybe, like, a Mother's Day thing that they fill out at school, and it'll be like, "For work, my mom does," and my kids will write, like, "meetings," like, they're just like, "I don't know what she does." But, they're starting to understand because my youngest daughter the other day said to me, "When you die, I think, like, I would like to be the one to inherit your business. And between now and when you die, you can teach me everything that you know." And, like, everything about how you run your business. And it was sort of, like, silly and interesting to have that conversation with her, first of all, because, like, she would be great. And, at 7, she's, like, very interested. And, you know, in many ways, it's like I see in her she's very serious about her schoolwork. She's very sort of diligent, but she really has an eye on her needs. And I see, like, like, how I could have been if I had some of the tools then that I have now. Um, and so I think it's really interesting, and I think the piece too about when you talk about, like, finding your thing, that is not arbitrary. It's not random, right? That some of the best ambition And what is the most rewarding comes through that doorway of what is really right for us. It's not just about being excellent across the board or being excellent by somebody else's definition or being excellent just, generically wonderful at all things, which I think like that's what I would have if I would have had like a picture of myself, like what I wanted to be like wonderful at all things, excels at everything, right? And that it's so much more fruitful and interesting to be like, this is my thing, this is my wheelhouse, and I want to be good at this thing. Like I really give a shit about this thing.
I love this idea of your daughter taking over when the time comes. What a beautiful longing also of hers,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
Um, but as someone who worked, 4,000 jobs before starting this work, I was certainly not excellent at all things. And, it's interesting to have this conversation from this particular vantage point because uh, in fact, I was excellent at no things. You
Mhm.
know, I was like, okay at some stuff. And looking back, I can see that it was all of the threads were basically like coaching without the title, um, or, mentorship in some form without the title. But everything else, is very mediocre, very average level of ambition for that particular thing. But still, somewhere deep in the core was this ambitious life will be big and glorious in some way. I just don't know exactly what that looks like. But the kind
Mm.
of hum of it existed.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Mhm. Mm. It is interesting. I find this compelling because knowing your work, you are really good at what you do. For those of you who are not familiar, tuning in, who are not familiar with Sammie's work, I invite you. I'm going to tag her Instagram and website and all the things. Um, there is such a level of elegance that you bring and intentionality that you bring. And um, yeah, I think it's just really interesting to hear you talk about, like, you did so many different kinds of things and that, like, this became something that you created that you rose into in this sort of way. Um, I'm just thinking about, for some reason, this time when I was in high school and it was like, I had a teacher who taught me something that was interesting to me specifically. It wasn't just like, "Oh, I wanna get a good grade." It was an English class, and we read, Isabel Allende's book, House of Spirits, and I started this, like, whole multi-year educational journey about, like I was, like, a political science wonk as a high schooler, and I was, like, researching how, like, the CIA was in South America and all these different things, and I was, like, really interested in magical realism. I just, like, was so compelled by all of this, like, myriad of topics. And that feeling of going from nothing to finding a thing that you're really passionate about. And that it's less of like being good or being excellent and more of like attending a specific calling in a way that works for the life that you want. With pancake mornings and also big projects. I'm curious for you, Sammie, in our last minutes here. How you see this, like, if you think about, like, the next 5 years of your life, I cannot believe that we are on this call and you said at the beginning that star is 5.
Mm.
I was like, 2? 5, okay, time flies. Um, how you see this shifting over the next couple of years as your girls grow up?
There's this term that I really love, which is divine responsibility. And I
Mm.
think that's something that I like to take quite seriously. And what I mean by that term is listening enough to be attuned to what you're actually being called towards. And I hope personally that this supports the big and soft life dance, right? Because sometimes the divine responsibility is to show up to the preschool celebration. Sometimes the divine responsibility is to go all in on this project that makes very little sense in this moment, but it's not leaving you, like it's met you and you've got to meet it. And sometimes it's booking the trip to the place that feels like the place you need to be, your body needs to be in. And um, so, with that kind of practice of listening to the divine responsibility, there is an uncertainty, as in, I'm not exactly sure what the next 5 years looks like because I hope to be brave enough to follow the call.
Mm.
I think my practice is to be brave enough to listen, to follow the call. And it is so much easier to kind of overlay the human intellect with what makes most sense or what would be most marketable or, uh, insert like 1,000 other shoulda, coulda,
Mhm.
woulda in there. And I can see already the time and space that I have, the freedom of time that I have opening up kind of month by month.
Mm.
So 5 years from now, I will have 2 children in school. School hours are, 9 till 2 here. There's not a huge amount of time in that, but I think I can get a lot done. I think there is something about becoming a parent which has overridden the 1,000 productivity PDFs I downloaded over my lifetime. It's just like I've got no choice but to do the thing in the time that I have, and that has been a great gift. So, how do I see this? The truest truth in this very moment is that I see much more in person travel orientated work. I have one of the programs that I run is called Gather, and it is a joy of my life. And one of the forms that I can see in my mind is traveling and booking cozy auditoriums with humans around the world where we literally gather and have really beautiful conversations together. There's 1,000 candles on each stage. And that kind of experience is not available in this season of my life, where I have, to quote you, like children who have many needs, right? Who need me a lot in this time. But 5 years from now, there'll be a little bit more breathing room there.
Mhm.
I guess the ultimate vision, though, would be that we do it all together, that they come along with
Mhm.
me. Um, and they get to see what this work and life looks like because, yes, same to, um, what does your mum do? Uh, well, Star actually says she talks to her friends about their dreams, and I love that. Which is true, right?
Mhm. Very
Um,
true.
so it feels like that. Um, I guess at the same time, I hope there is even more softness, I hope that I am even more comfortable, or that I'm much more comfortable stretching those 7 minutes that we spoke about at the top of this
Mhm.
conversation into 7 hours once in a while. I imagine tending to my own spirit much more often. I kind
Mhm.
of can't even really fathom what that feels like. You are a season that like chunk of time ahead of me in parenting, so I'd be curious to know what that actually looks like and feels like. But
Mhm.
that's exciting to me. So I hope that work gets richer and bigger and more like and broader almost, like more expansive, welcoming
Mhm.
more and more in that way, and also that, pancake mornings are slower.
Mm.
Mm.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I'm thinking about how when Needy came out, Freya was like Hannah's age.
Mm.
And, how wild it is now. I'm like, she puts on her own shoes. She brushes her own teeth sometimes. She feeds the bunny every morning
Mm.
herself. Um, and I love the vision of you, I'm like, to be in a place where you are doing something live. That's like I'm putting that on my internal, vision board because that would be so fun to just witness and behold. Um, yeah, it is really interesting. I think it's like there's such a confluence of things happening. When I look at my own life, it's like postpartum dovetailed into perimenopause, dovetailed into, so many of these just like different kinds of things. And what has happened in that mix for me has been so much becoming,
Mm,
like real, true becoming. Um, and the work just flows out of that in such a fun way, and, the 7 minutes to that I remember, gosh, when I went on this podcast tour when, Needy came out, and people kept being like, "You must get all of your needs met," and I was like, I'm like, "Ma'am, I have a one-and-a-half-year-old, like, I do not I'm never asleep." I'm like, "I am running on I don't even know what at this point." Um but yeah, like having that long view of your life and thinking about it seasonally, thinking about like what is available to me in this space and that those things change and shift in so many different ways. And what I find is being in this sort of work where I am the work. So, when I'm exhausted and there are seasons where I have been, there's less that flows through me, and in seasons where I am more kind of, like, abundant have a more abundant capacity, more comes through me too, and that's, like, another sort of facet, and some of that I control, and some of that at this phase in my life, it's like, I don't know what my body is up to.
yeah.
So it's an interesting other kind of curvy element. But I so appreciate you hanging out and talking about this, with me today. I think there are so many of us who are, like, in this dance of wanting to be the stewards of our calling and our work, and also being the humans that we are, and also desiring, like, these things that, can feel like they're at odds, and, you so beautifully have woven them together for us. So thank you so much for being here.
Gosh, such a pleasure. Thank you for
Mhm.
having me. And if we could just turn that vision up of live event, because what I really feel, the visual that I have is so clear, right? It's a teal velvet couch. I've said that
Yes.
those words out of my mouth now for 3 years, right? You've heard me say that.
Mhm, mhm.
If we could just turn that vision up, because can you come on the couch with me? Like we need to just be on the couch together with the thousand candles on the stage, and then that visual will be complete for me. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Please.
Yeah,
Oh,
the at odds piece is interesting, and I suppose just one last piece here is, that I hope that I learn more so and all of us together kind of allow them to feed each other, that's
mm,
this feels like the work to me as opposed to them being at opposite ends of the spectrum. It feels
mhm,
hopefully like some kind of, yeah, cyclic thing.
mhm. Yeah, I think that is really spot on, and thank you so much. So, Sammy, I'm gonna be sharing where people can find you, but is there anything in particular that you wanna share or invite people into here at the end of our conversation?
Mm. Um, well, the thing I have open right now is Gather. It is,
Mm,
online, light-ish, but really as in terms of time and financial investment, which feels really good, super accessible, essentially.
mhm,
Um, and is a gathering of brilliant space holders. So that is very alive for me right now, open for the month of July.
mm,
And we journeyed together for a year, but yeah, otherwise, Instagram is the spot
mhm,
where I hang usually for too
mhm,
many hours of a week if I was
mhm,
to also look
mhm.
at that screen time. Yeah.
Mhm. So many available hours. Ugh, well, I
Oh,
mean, I appreciate that you're there because
that's
I like to hang out with you there, so what can I say? I'm here for it. Thank you so, so, so much for being here, Sammy. I am so excited to share this with all of my Even Here, Even Now crew, and I appreciate you for taking the time.
Thank you, Mara. Appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to Even Here, Even Now with Mara Glatzel. If you want my support in learning to stay by your own side and nourish your needs, dance on over to maraglatzel.com/quiz to take my quiz to figure out what you need right now and receive my best tools for how to meet those needs with a greater sense of ease and confidence. If you love today's show, please leave us a rating or review wherever you subscribe to this podcast. It helps more than you know. And as always, permission loves company. If there's a human in your life that you think can benefit from this conversation, I would be so grateful if you shared it with them. Thank you. See you next time.